It's outrageous that Parliament does not call the Minister for Primary Education to come and answer where did the 1 million plus children disappear to? Or was it fiction? If they exist, then we need to hold ourselves accountable. On the economy, I think that we can do much better by changing the economic philosophy of this government from welfareism, tax relief, and what I call administrative engineering. For the sake of time, I won't explain some of these concepts.
You have 5 minutes.
Yes. But basically, the idea that you can do trickle-down economics, that by investing at the top, you are addressing the bottom, is a philosophy that has failed almost everywhere. But government has pursued this kind of economic philosophy for the last 3 decades. And what we are seeing, poverty levels stagnating, and most recently, going up, low levels of per capita GDP across all the districts. I think the Parliament can be able to address this by basically demanding that the government present a much more robust plan on how you deal with these issues. On safeguarding democracy, Right Honorable Speaker, even when we the citizens went and engaged in consultations on electoral reforms, and I remember before the reforms in before the 2016 elections, we came and met with you in the office. We presented the Citizens Compact on electoral reforms. And then Parliament asked its Legal and Parliamentary Affairs Committee to go around the country and collect views of the citizens. And then the committee came back after spending money, and the Parliament said, we don't have time to incorporate the proposals of the citizens. I think that it's very frustrating to feel like the Parliament, the people's representative, actually conduct business that way. So my last point is about what I would call the tunnel without light at the end. Is Parliament the tunnel without light at the end? Why am I saying this? That in the Constitution creates and reaffirms the 3 arms of the state: the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary. Of all the 3 institutions, it is only the Parliament which is commanded to protect the Constitution. The executive is for executing. The judiciary is for adjudicating. It is only Parliament which has a mandate to protect the Constitution. So it is unimaginable, Right Honorable Speaker, that the same members of Parliament who swore to protect the Constitution are the same ones who produce bills to change the Constitution. What exactly were they swearing to protect? You would imagine that the logical thing to do is that amendment, the proposals for amendment, are coming from the executive. But here we had a case where the member of Parliament is the one who basically produces a bill and says, I want to change the things that I sought to protect. And I can assure you that the actions of Parliament in changing the age limit and changing the terms of your contract from 5 to 7 years has done sufficient damage. Right Honorable Speaker, I think you just have to invest, I don't know what kind of PR machinery to be able to, recapture the imagination of the population in as far as the reputation of the Parliament is concerned, but also in terms of citizens looking at the Parliament as a voice. Let me end by sharing my 2 quick points. One is about that every amendment that the Parliament has made since the 6th Parliament has been to tear down the safeguards that are built in the Constitution. I would want someone to point me to an amendment of the Constitution that strengthens the safeguard. A year before the first anniversary of the Constitution, in July of 1996, Parliament voted to change the number of cabinet ministers. That was the first amendment to the Constitution. You can call it anything, but I think it was an amendment. The 7th Parliament voted to remove age limit. The 10th Parliament, the 7th Parliament voted to remove term limits. The 10th Parliament voted to remove age limit and extend the tenure of Parliament, the President, and the local councils. I think that each of those amendments basically weakens the constitutional framework and makes Parliament what the President is saying it is. And I think that's what we need to change. My 3 quick recommendations. One is, I can bet that this Parliament will not change its character, and the perceptions about it will not change unless you change its size. That if you cannot reduce the size of the Parliament, I can tell you we are going to remain with this kumbaya. And unfortunately, probably changing it is a political question, because all the issues that we are dealing with, even in terms of the quality of the Parliament, are political issues. As a policy analyst, I was taught and I have learned never to apply the wrong solutions to the wrong problem. If you have a political problem, Simon, you solve it politically. If it's a legal problem, you use the law. If it's an economic problem, you change economic policy. So there is no shortcut. My second recommendation is that you have to deal with the question of the electoral system. I think Francis talked about it. A rigged political system will produce a bus-pack parliament. There is no shortcut. And therefore, this parliament, if you cannot help this country change our electoral system, strengthen the safeguards of the system, and do it purposefully and business-like, because in most cases, these things, because there are political interests at play, we do them, because we are just taking care of the interests. And thirdly, we have to be bold enough and deconcentrate and decentralize power from Kampala. Everybody wants to come to Kampala. We have to be bold and give power to the regions and make sure that these people who want to run to Kampala, and we can even put money there for people to be governors and whatever, they can remain there. Everybody right now is fighting to come to Kampala, to come to the bus park. And I hope that we can be able to change that and deal with it. Thank you very much for listening to me.
So, Right Honorable Deputy Speaker, have you been disappointed, or Godber has served to vindicate your earlier worries? That's a question I am sure he will respond to. Godber decides, and aptly so, to harp on the issue of the bus pack. He makes his 3 recommendations, and one of them is that you must reduce the size of Parliament if you must have your quality and perception improve.